Hello and welcome. In this video, I'm going to be offering my thoughts as to how I think the aspirational brands like Hermès, Chanel, Christian Dior, Louis Vuitton, for example, should respond to the recent videos swirling around social media with Chinese factories stating that they are behind manufacturing the majority, if not all, of luxury handbags in China. I'm Anesu Sagonda and I produce educational luxury content for anyone after the finer things, whether you're new to money and wanting to learn how to navigate the terrain, or you're into luxury but you want to focus more on high quality, under the radar brands, or you're young and starting out in life and wanting to reap the benefits of buying better quality from the get-go, then my content is geared towards you. Before I kick off, there are 4 comments that are linked that I would like to address. And these are comments that were posted against my last video where I responded to the Made in China videos flying around social media. I have an incredibly lively comment section, which I really appreciate. Thank you to all of my viewers who take the time to thoughtfully comment. I like the fact that it's a bring and share comment section. And there's a lot of learning. It's both ways, and I really appreciate it. Thank you. So the first comment I want to address: what's your opinion about ethical side of purchasing dupes? I am very anti-dupes personally. It's something I have never done and I will never do. I think it's horribly unfair. I think it's unethical. I think it's illegal. I think it's immoral, because you are essentially benefiting off the hard work, the time, the resources that have been utilized by a brand, regardless of whether it's Louis Vuitton, Moët, Hennessy, Richemont or Kering. They have fair and square built incredibly powerful brands with amazing value. And you are then coming in and hanging off the coattails of a brand that has done incredibly well and benefiting off that. It's just something I think is just incredibly wrong. But regardless of my thoughts, there will always be consumers within the luxury space who are more than happy, who are comfortable, who prefer to buy dupes. If it works for you, by all means do it, if your conscience is clear. But personally, I think it's incredibly wrong. The second comment, I smiled when I saw this comment. It's somebody who is actually new to the channel, Fly Sister. And I thought to myself, I honestly would have loved to have been a fly on the wall in her former life. She used to issue cease and desist letters to counterfeiters. And I thought, oh my goodness, you have seen some really interesting things in your time. But she went on to say, some Chinese designers do make high quality bags with similar materials, which we are aware of. However, they should use their own designs and sell under their own name. That's spoken to what I would really like to talk about in this particular video. And then the last 2 comments are linked. It started with a young lady, I think she's just finished school, and she said, in school it was explained to me not as a matter of wrong or right, but the underlying beliefs that ideas and designs don't belong to the original individual as a matter of perpetual ownership. And then she went on to say, Chinese government does not have a method for original designers to seek redress, and it does not recognize enforced judgments from other countries. And then someone actually chimed in and responded to her and said, one of the reasons China is widely criticized is due to it not following copyright laws. A country can have whatever laws it wishes, however, we must ask ourselves, are they enforced? I have included, as you can see, all of the comments. Please do read those at your leisure. But the last 2 comments I thought were really interesting because they encapsulated exactly how I've always felt about China. For as long as I've known about products being made in China, luxury good dupes being created in China. I remember 20 years ago seeing really good copies of Louis Vuitton bags, but even at that stage, it just didn't feel right. It didn't sit well with me. And it's something I just never indulged in. But I remember I used to get a lot of offers many years ago. And it occurred to me whilst watching the videos that China has very clearly illustrated to the world that they are more than capable of creating luxury goods of varying levels of quality, from the lower end, poorer, cheaper quality products, mid-tier, all the way to the top end where they can create dupes that are like for like. The Birkin from Hermès, for example, they know exactly where to source the leathers, the hardware, the edge coating. They know how to create the bags, for example. They have got it all down to a T. And I just thought to myself, you've shown us that you're more than capable. Why don't you actually create your own designs, your own luxury brands? There's a brand I've heard of called Somewhat. I haven't seen personally. I'd really like to see it in China. But you've shown us you're capable. A lot of brands are very successfully launched on social media. And I just thought, why doesn't China do that? Why don't you legitimize your luxury industry? You have shown us you're more than capable. You have the craft, you have access to the materials. Now just do the right thing and create your own products. I know I'll never be able to stock dupes or discourage people. I'm not trying to do that because that's a totally different market. Those are consumers I don't even think the aspirational brands are trying to target. But dupes will always be there. But China, I think this is the perfect time, the perfect opportunity. You have the platform to come in with your own products and utilize social media. I'm going to split this video into two sections because the impact of the Chinese videos is different regarding the aspirational brands versus the high quality under the radar, and how they move forward is also a little different. But I also think it's important to give a little context to the aspirational brands so what I say makes sense. A couple of years ago, I embarked on a luxury goods pricing project together with the University of Cape Town. I'm going to attach the introductory video above. And we wanted to understand at what point do consumers stop buying luxury products when the price has gone up too much. And we started this project because around that time, around a year and a half prior to starting the project, a number of aspirational brands had put up their prices, some once, some twice, some even 3 times during the course of that time. And Chanel is a brand that consistently came up during the course of the price rises, during the course of the project, because consumers were up in arms because Chanel's products were going up in price. They were creating Veblen goods. Price goes up, demand goes up, but the quality of their products was going down. What we found out from the project was that with price rises, consumers expect increased innovation, better designs, higher quality materials being used. But that wasn't necessarily the case when it comes to Chanel. And then about a year ago, I reacted to an interview that was conducted by Bloomberg with, and they were interviewing Lina Aigner, the CEO of Chanel. And it was unfortunately an incredibly disappointing interview. It was just a very fluffy interview. All it was an incredibly heavily scripted PR stunt, for use of a better word. It was nonsense. I really just didn't understand why she did the interview. Because what would have really made sense and created a genuine connection and rapport with the audience was to have said, we've seen you, we've heard the feedback on social media, and we're acting on it. But of course, Chanel is an incredibly controlled organization. There's no way they would ever allude to anything negative. I mean, which brand would put their hand up and say, yes, our quality is not so great at the moment? No one would really admit that. More so Chanel, a brand with absolutely outstanding brand equity. They've built such value in their products. That's why they're able to keep pushing the prices up, because of the value. So you will never ever hear them say something negative in any of their communication. But Lina Aigner could have alluded to something. She could have raised the point that she's aware we're doing something about it. She could have found a strategic way of saying it. But what was even more disappointing was the fact that when she was asked about the audience, she had earlier said, we have an incredibly young audience. By 2030, we're going to have consumers that are made up of 35% of Gen Z and Gen Alpha. That is a fairly sizable consumer base and a young consumer base. And she said, we're not going to communicate to them differently to the rest of our consumers. And I was absolutely gobsmacked, because that was an ill-advised response. I don't know what sense that made to Chanel. And considering the fact that their audience is growing, it's a young audience. A couple of days ago, I actually looked at a report where Statista, a German data accumulator, actually mentioned that 46% of luxury spend in 2024 was from the millennials and 20% was from the Gen Z. Millennials, Gen Z are a young, growing audience. They're the audience of today. They're the audience of the future. They receive, how they expect, how they want communication. They want communication that's authentic. They want a brand to authentically communicate their story, their mission. They want transparency. They want authenticity. They want sustainability. They want emotional connection with the brands. They want the customer experience. They are digital natives. They are heavily influenced by social media. They will learn about, research, and even buy brands on social media. Brands need to align with content creators. They need to have strategies that are primarily on social media in order to connect with this audience. But most of all, the transparency. They want brands that are environmentally and socially responsible and practicing. They want brands that will talk about their products, break down the craft. They will show how the products are made, where the products are made. And this has been heightened by the Chinese factories. That it's an industry that's been shrouded by a lot of secrecy. In the 90s, my first job, I was lucky enough to have been taken on by Marks & Spencer onto their graduate training scheme. It was one of the most prestigious at that time. And in the 90s, Marks & Spencer was the darling of the retail sector. But unfortunately, they were blinded by their greatness, and they have never been able to achieve the same level of success that they achieved in the 90s to date. And I'm just mindful of the fact that the hugely aspirational brands, Hermès, for example, they are now the largest luxury brand by market capitalization. Chanel, Christian Dior, Louis Vuitton, Gucci, for example. If they are not mindful of the changing dynamics, the changing culture in the luxury industry, they will be blinded by their greatness. They need to adjust and adapt to the new audience and how they communicate, the shoppers of today, the shoppers of the future. What has been happening with China? The brands rarely communicate. You rarely hear Hermès or Louis Vuitton or Chanel talk about their products in detail, the craft, the leathers, where they're made. The luxury industry, the aspirational space is shrouded in a lot of secrecy. Recently, we have had a number of scandals coming out. Most recently, Christian Dior, bags being made for £57 and sold for $2,800. Conversations about sweatshops, really poor working conditions for the workers. All of that needs to stop. There needs to be better communication. And the brands have a lot of work to do, or else they'll literally be blinded like Marks & Spencer by their greatness, and they'll start to lose market share. There are a lot of jitters. There's a lot of chaos at the moment. China has caused chaos. There are consumers who are going to start buying dupes, consumers who will always stay with the dupes, and there are consumers who will stay with the aspirational brands, but they're disgruntled. They're not happy. They don't like the fact that there isn't any transparency, or the controversies, the issues that are ongoing, and the fact that some of the brands don't even talk to them in the manner that they expect, that they understand, that they are aligned with. And so the big aspirational brands, the aspirational brands need to adjust. They need to be a lot more transparent. They need to show us what's going on. The two brands I really like, Celine, Loewe. Open your ateliers. Show the viewers where they are, the craft. I know you've done that with Celine. You've had a number of content creators you have invited to your facilities in Italy, and you've shown them the triomphe. We need to do that with the other brands. Show them where they're made, the craft, talk about the details. Have open events with the creative director talking about different themes, for example. If I was a key decision maker at one of the aspirational brands, Chanel, Hermès, for example, I would say let's open up an atelier, or even pull together focus groups, really diverse focus groups, varying backgrounds, ages, different letters of the alphabet, different ethnicities, and just get as much information as possible from the consumers. and then create products and communicate in a way that's most beneficial for both parties. Which leads on to my high quality under the radar. If the hugely aspirational brands don't change, it'll literally be their undoing. As we can all see, the ball has been dropped. My brands, pick up the ball and run as fast and as hard as you can. You have absolutely nothing to lose at the moment. This is your moment. There's chaos. Thrive from it. You have absolutely fantastic products. The brands I talk about, the brands I've researched and I recommend, you have outstanding products. Products that far exceed a good number of the aspirational products. Talk about the craft, the leathers, the details. Be shameless. Don't be shy. Be confident. Talk about them. Push them to the front. That is what will help you on social media, and information will spread like wildfire. There are consumers who are desperate, who are hungry for better value products, who want to move away from the dupes, who want to move away from the mess of the aspirational brands, and they don't know where to go. So now is your time to shine. You have nothing to lose. You have absolutely everything to gain. But you need to make sure you couple talking about your products, hyping them up, with offering absolutely outstanding customer service. The customer experience you offer your customers needs to be game-changing. It needs to be highly delivered. You'll make mistakes along the way, learn from them, but keep going and improving, continually improving your brand's craft and how you look after customers. With my high quality under the radar brands, you also need to raise the profile of the industry, your ateliers. For example, Spain is shrouded in a lot of secrecy. If I as an individual were to go to Ubrique and try and approach an atelier to get assistance with creating a brand, it's very difficult. It's very much about relationships, it's about introduction, it's about knowing what you want and forging a relationship. And that is all mired in a lot of secrecy. And I think there just needs to be open, honest, transparent communication. I cannot take business away from Loewick because I don't have the relationship. But what I can do is raise the profile of Spanish ateliers and talk about the merits of having your bags produced in Spain. What is a Spanish product, for example, Spanish leathers, Spanish detail, Spanish craft. That is something that can be spoken about. It just helps to raise and create openness within the industry. So China has shown us where all of the flaws are. And there are flaws that can be turned around, situations that can be turned around. China, first and foremost, this is your chance to legitimize your luxury industry. Aspirational brands, this is your time to become a lot more transparent and open. Talk about your products, the materials, where they're made. Talk about the supply chain. And then high quality under the radar, pick up the ball and run as fast as you can, because you have an absolutely outstanding product that just needs its profile raised, coupled with absolutely outstanding customer experience. And you will be the darling in the space. This is your moment. Any other thoughts, any other questions? As always, let me know in the comment section down below.